Since it's October and spooky season, I thought I'd share my own real-life scary story that happened to me. So, for those of you who don't know, I've been working in the banking industry for more than 3 years now. And during my first year there, I met this older man. He was the same ethnicity as me. So I used to call him Uncle, right? Because he was in his early 70s. So he kind of reminded me of like a father or an uncle. Anyway, this uncle comes in regularly. I end up always helping him. Eventually, he gets my number because he lets me know that I could apply for a government job, that he could help me because he used to be in the government. So he was like, you shouldn't be working here. You should be working for the government. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So anyway, he got my number. He texted me like instructions on what to do. Long story short, it didn't end up working out. Like, it went nowhere. Then he kept my number, but he would keep texting me occasionally saying like, I would love to take you out to lunch or dinner outside of work. Like, let me know when you're free. And I thought it was a nice, cute gesture. So I did go out with him once to dinner. We went to like Red Lobster. And at the dinner, I noticed like he would just talk all about himself and his life. He never would ask me anything. So I thought that was a little weird. But then I realized, okay, maybe he's just a lonely old man. He was married, he is married, but he didn't, you could tell like he wasn't happy. But like I never saw him creepy in that way until like later on. So fast forward to like a year later, he comes in regularly at the bank as usual, and then he starts like bringing me free food, like lunch, without even me asking, without even letting me know. What would you like to eat? My treat. So I never expected him to do all this, but he would bring me food. And on holidays, he would also like give me a card. Like he would meet me outside the parking lot at my job and he'd be like, I have something for you. And he would give me like a card, like a holiday card or something. And inside it would have like cash in it. And I would be like, oh, like you didn't have to do this at all. Like, thank you so much. I wasn't supposed to take cash from a customer, but since we were outside of work, I thought it was okay. But no, it was not okay. So fast forward to a year later. This was like around the time I started dating someone, a guy that I met at work. So I was dating him for a couple months and I would tell him stuff like, there's this creepy uncle who likes to bring me food and stuff. He would say stuff like, you know, you need to be careful because like he could be crazy, he could be dangerous. And I would be like, no, he's just like a sweet old man who's just kind of lonely. He sees me as a daughter. I call him Uncle. And he's like, no, this just doesn't sound right. You need to tell him like to stop. And I would be like, you're just overreacting. Fast forward to my birthday. Uncle texts me to meet him outside after work in the parking lot. And I go and it ends up being a very creepy encounter because he kind of like corners, like he parks right next to my car and he blocks my doorway because he has his like car door open, which is blocking my driver's side door. So like he tells me to get in as I'm walking towards my car. Mind you, I'm walking out with my boss, my two bosses. They see everything that happens next. Uncle tells me to get in his car. I'm like, no, I can't. And then he's like, just for a little bit. So I have no choice because he's like blocking my doorway. So I slowly, reluctantly get into the passenger seat and he opens the door for me. He closes it. He goes around to the driver's seat, gets in, and he says, I just wanted to say, like, I love you so much. Like, I got you all these gifts. And he gifts me, like, a vase of flowers, a fruit tart, a bag with like some perfume or something I didn't even ask for, and a card in it that has money. And I'm like, my uncle, you really didn't have to do this. And my manager is sitting in her car across the parking lot watching. I slowly like look at her. I'm like, help me. She just looks for a while and then she drives off. And so when she leaves, like this uncle, he's like telling me how much he loves me in my car. He reaches over to hug me and he tries to cop a feel. I'm like, uncle, stop it. Stop. I just freak out and I'm so like shocked and everything. And I just tell him immediately, like, thank you so much, but I have to go. I have to be somewhere. So he's like, all right, I'll put your gifts in your car, like unlock your car. I'll put it in the back seat. So I'm like, then he puts the stuff in the car and then I immediately turn the car on and I race out of there. I call my boyfriend at the time. I tell him what happened. I'm like freaking out, panicking. And my boyfriend at the time was like, don't go home, come straight to my place in case he follows you. So I go, right? Next day at work, my boss calls me into her office. She tells me that you need to stop seeing this uncle. You could have put your life in danger. You need to text him right now in front of me. Tell him that you're not allowed to you're not allowed to text me anymore. If you come into the bank, I'm not allowed to help you. So then I get in trouble at work. I don't get like written up because my boss is like, what you did was stupid, but I'm going to give you another chance. So you need to not see this uncle, not have any communication with him anymore. And I was like, okay. And I tell him and he's kind of upset, but whatever. Then 6 months later, something happens. And I'm running out of time, but I'm going to put it in part 2. This is part 2 of my Get Ready With Me scary story time. From my last video, I left off at where I told the creepy uncle at my job to not communicate with me anymore and that I wasn't allowed to help him. So he got kind of upset, you know, but anyway, I left it at that. 6 months later, it was, 2024. I got a new car earlier that year. That May, I was at work, and when I got off work, I went into my car. I noticed the tire light was on, and it said like extremely low pressure or something like that. Mind you, I had a brand new car, so I was like, what? I was confused. So I go out, I look at the tire. It's visibly deflated, but it's still like drivable. So immediately I go to Costco, which was thankfully like 5 minutes away. And I have the technicians at Costco Tire check it out. So the technician calls me and he's like, hey, we checked out your tire and unfortunately it looks like there was a sidewall puncture on your tire. So it's irreparable. So you need to get it replaced. So I was like, oh, okay. I thought, probably just ran over a nail or something, but I was like, how did this happen? And he's like, oh, it could have been for a couple of reasons. Like you could have hit a curb or you could have drove on like a bunch of potholes. I was like, no, I really don't drive that much. Like I live near my job and this happened like right after I got off my job. So he's just like, okay, it could have been something, rare occurrence. Later that month, the same thing happens again. So mind you, I already got one tire replaced and then I had to get it replaced again. I'm like getting annoyed. I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to drive better, like whatever. Fast forward to July, same thing happens. I get a sidewall puncture on a different tire. I get another puncture in August. So I get 2 in August, all at different times in the month. So at this point, I'm like, okay, it's not my driving, like something's going on. So I begin to think who or what could have caused it, because I noticed that this would always happen right after work. That morning I would drive to work, my tire would be fine, no lights on whatsoever. But when I would get off work and get in my car, that's when the tire light would be on and it would say low pressure. I would always take it to Costco. They would say it's a sidewall puncture. So I was going to Costco at like every other month because this was happening a lot. It happened in November. It happened in up until January of this year. January, the technician at Costco was like, you know, unfortunately, because this has been happening so much, it's a sidewall puncture. It looks like your car is being vandalized, like your tires are being vandalized, and unfortunately, your warranty doesn't cover that. So I was like, oh shoot, like what should I do? And they were like, maybe get a dash cam to see like who's doing this, because it seems like you have an enemy. I was like, yeah, I think I do. But at that time I didn't know who it was. My boyfriend at the time and I broke up around November after that whole birthday incident. But it can't be my ex-boyfriend because like he lives 30 minutes or more, at least 30 minutes away from my job. He wouldn't do that because we didn't have like a horrible breakup. So up until January, they were like, yeah, this is the last time we can replace it. Like, you know, basically good luck. I get a dash cam, but it doesn't really help because it's not on when the car is parked. So that was an issue. The last incident happened in February, but it wasn't a tire issue. This time it was my sensors went off. One weekend I had to park on the street because my sister from out of town was coming to visit and she parked in front of the house, so I would park outside on the street of my neighborhood. And one day I was going to the grocery store and I turned my car on and I noticed like all my lights were on and I was getting an alert from my Toyota app. So I was like so confused. I was like, how did this happen? So I call my dealership immediately. I make an appointment for the next day for them to check it out. While I'm there at the dealership, the technician calls me into the area where my car is, and he's like, come here, I want to show you something. So then he shows me behind one of my front wheel tires. I'll insert a picture, but he tells me that someone attempted to cut my brake line. So at this point, I'm like super shocked. I'm like, what? And I'm scared, you know? I'm like, who would do this? I start crying. I call my sister. I file a police report. Police comes to my job, you know, a few days later to like question me about who I think the suspect is. My bosses tell me that they think that it's the creepy uncle who I cut off contact with. They were like, yeah, we think it's him because like one time he came into the branch and someone else was helping him. He said that you, meaning me, was a very bad person and he seemed angry. You know, he's like this frail, short old man. Like I didn't think he would be strong enough to puncture my tire, you know, especially like in a shopping center parking lot where my bank was. Unfortunately, the property manager of that shopping center did not have any cameras in the parking lot. So, you know, I wasn't parked close enough to my bank where they could see my car. We just suspected that it was this uncle. So the police asked me, hey, do you want me to question him? I was like, sure, but like, you know, don't mention me. So he goes there with his partner, questions the uncle. The deputy calls me back. He's like, you know, I think we scared him because I kind of mentioned that, you know, he needs to stop like harassing ladies at the bank, but I didn't say your name. So I was like, oh, okay, thank you. So he was like, I think that scared him. Long story short, I end up getting transferred at work to another branch, and then I never get any tire incidents again, knock on wood. So I feel safer there. But my managers at my old branch tell me that this uncle's wife comes into their branch and starts looking for me. She thinks that I must have been his long lost daughter that he had from another person, you know, long time ago. And it's just crazy. My manager has to like escort her out. It's just crazy. So moral of the story is do not be too nice. You never know who people are, and your safety always comes first. So have strong boundaries.
I have a real life horror story to share, so buckle up. This story is 100% real. There are police reports and posts on Nextdoor to prove it. And it's not from a movie, and it's not from a book. It is my real life. So a few years ago, I moved back to my hometown. It's super small. It's super sleepy. There's like 4,000 people. And it's kind of the type of place where there's not a lot going on. And if you're like, Ellen, why would you do that? Money. A couple that I know was like renting a tiny house. It was so cheap, and they were like, hey, if you want to move in, like, you've got the place. And I was like, great, I'll save some money. So I move in, and like literally a couple days into living there, I start to feel like somebody is watching me. Like in my house, around my house, working in my little yard, things just felt very off. And spoiler alert, like, ladies, if you have this feeling, anyone, if you have this feeling, please listen to it. Okay, so 2 pieces of context that you need like super quick to understand how insane this story is and how creepy this gets. Because if you consume true crime content, unfortunately, you are in the right place. Couple pieces of context that you need to understand how scary and creepy this is. So the property was divided into sections. The couple that lived in the main house were renting to me. So they lived in the main house. They had their own yard, their own entrance and exit, like kept to themselves. My space was the tiny house in the back, and I had my own tiny postage stamp of a yard. I had my own gate, and I parked my car right outside my gate so I could just get in there and just go to work. I kept to myself. No one knew that I lived there. So not only did this place kind of creep me out, but I started smelling cigarette smoke like 4 days into living there. Like, it was evening, I was kind of winding down, getting ready for bed, and I would smell it, and it was so strong, it was like someone was in the room with me. And because I'm a rational person, I was like, it's probably the couple in the main house. Like, one of them went outside to smoke, hiding it from the other one, and it's just kind of wafting into my room. And stay with me because this is about to get completely unhinged. I should also add that sometimes my dog would like bark or growl, and I have to confess, you guys, I like shushed her a little bit because we had just moved in, and I was like, you know, there's a lot of unfamiliar sounds. We used to live in the country. I was like, you probably just like hear people going about their lives, and you're being like a little bit dramatic about it, and we can't bark at everything. I have regrets. You're the best. So then comes the fateful night when my dog indicates that she has to go to the bathroom, and I smell the cigarette smoke again, and I'm just like, 2 for 1, I'm gonna go outside with her and just gently call over the fence and just be like, hey, couple who lives in the main house, like, can you not smoke right outside here, because like it's kind of wafting over the fence and into my bedroom, and it's super strong. And I'm like, tonight's the night. We are having a conversation about it. So I let myself out the front door, no shoes, no pants, no phone, and I see a man in my yard, and he is looking in my bedroom window, and he's smoking. So before I tell you how I respond to this, if you've ever been in an emergency situation and had like a weird response, I would love to hear about it, because when people are in shock, when we're in disbelief, we just don't react the way that one might think. Sometimes it's not like super rational, you know? Now I have the gift of hindsight to look back and think of all the things I would have, could have, should have done, but I didn't have that at the time. I was really just like a girl with no pants and no shoes and no phone and no gun. And no security system, which like since then I have changed. So I responded in a weird way. I like called out, hey, as if like he was a friend of mine who was just dropping by and forgot to text, because I thought like, there's no way this is a stranger. Like, he must be like lost, like he went to the wrong house, or like a friend or a friend's partner who's like dropping off a book for me, or like dropping off some apples from their tree. Like, I truly live in Delulu land, you guys. You have no idea. But no, quickly I realized that this was a stranger and he was in my yard and he was watching me. So he sees me and he's clearly on drugs because his reaction is super slow. And he turns around and like takes off, but he's like not very fast. And I instinctively take off after him as any completely irrational person would do. Like, what am I going to do if I catch him? And I'm running through the dark alley with no shoes on, stepping on like pine cones and pine needles and stuff. And he gets away because of course he does. And then I'm standing in a dark alley, like for what feels like 10 minutes, which is probably like 10 seconds. And that's when it dawns on me, like finally, that this person is not lost. He's not a friend of a friend. He is a stranger who's been stalking me for months and watching me through my window, smoking. So this person who just got away has seen me get out of the shower and read a book in bed and scroll on social media. I've even woken up in the middle of the night to the smell of his cigarette smoke, which means that he's watched me sleep before. And this is all too much for my brain to comprehend. So I just stood there, you guys. And then I'm like, I have to call the police. Like, this is an actual emergency that actually just happened. Like, I have to call the police. So I go back into my little tiny home and I find my cell phone and I just sit on the bed, sweating and shaking and trying to convince myself that this was a real thing that really just happened and I did not make it up. I didn't imagine it. So I call the police and they're very nonchalant for some reason. I'm like, would you be this nonchalant if this was you or like your partner or your family? Because I hope not. And this person is a neighbor of mine. And you know that's true because like it's not random that 4 days after I moved in, I started smelling cigarette smoke outside of my house. I am confronted with the knowledge that like this person is very close to me and has been for like a while. And it's a tale as old as time because when I talk to the police of this, 4,000, 5,000 person tiny ass town, it very quickly pivots from like him stalking me and like his actions and like anything about him to like, do I do this or did I do that? It was like, do you have a gun? And at the time I was like, no, I have a gun now. And they were like, did you have a home security system? I didn't have one at the time. And did you lock your doors every day? And I was like, honestly, not really. I thought this was safe and I was wrong. And I felt so stupid and I felt so small and embarrassed, which I should not have had to feel. Okay, this is getting very long. Let me know if you want a part 2. But spoiler alert, I'm not the only woman he watched. Okay, it's time for part 2. So I'm guessing that your number one question is, did this guy get caught? And the answer is yes, and I'll tell you how. And if you're genuinely curious about like the aftermath of this for me in my life, I guess I can make a part 3, but I think more importantly, like, where is this guy, right? He was caught. So pretty soon after this happened, I posted on Nextdoor and Facebook, which you should only do this if you are really super brave because people are not super kind on social media. Not sure if anybody told you, but yikes. So I post on Nextdoor, I post on Facebook in like my local group, and I'm like, this is the person that you should be looking out for. Like, has anyone else seen this person? And after sifting through the comments, I found a couple people who had not only seen someone like this, but had experienced the same thing that I did, which in a town of 4,000, like, really sticks out. So they were like, you can message me. Like, I caught this guy outside my house the other day and it was really scary. And like, my husband was out of town and he was like watching me and smoking. And the details were just so similar. So I reached out to a couple of these women, and honestly, I think there were two who had very, very similar stories. Like, the other ones, like, maybe could have been somebody else, but these ones I was like, this is uncanny. So I talked to these women, and we have this like beautiful moment of solidarity, and it's very nourishing, of course, but like, does it do anything for us legally? No, not really. We all moved on with our lives because that's what we do, is that we have jobs and bills and shit to take care of, you know? So fast forward like a year, maybe a year and a half later, and I get a text message from the lady who lived next door to the tiny house property. And she was like, I talked to someone who caught the guy. And I was like, you're joking. Like, have them call me. So this guy calls me and he proceeds to tell me an insane story. So he says that him and his wife were literally just like watching TV or like hanging out, you know, like getting ready for bed. And they had been feeling a little bit weird lately. They'd heard rustling around. They had assumed that maybe they had like a mouse, or like a rat or something, or whatever, like the wind. But that night, he like decided to go out and check on something because something felt really off. And it was kind of loud. And so he goes out there, and there's a man smoking, watching them. And this guy has, I think, a more reasonable reaction than some of us. And he goes like chasing after this guy, like at a much better clip than I ever did. And not only that, but he fucking catches him. And he has to hold this dude down until the police get there. Can you literally imagine physically holding down the person who has been stalking you until the police arrive? Fortunately, my hometown is like a mile and a half long. So how long can it possibly take them to get there? You know, a few minutes. So he tackles the guy. He's charged with like stalking and stuff because he was physically detained. And fast forward, and the guy is like arraigned in court. So he received like a fine. Like, he's not in jail. He's like proceeding with his life. So obviously, like, I don't have all the information. Like, I don't have access to like all of his records or anything like that. But it seems that he went on living, and I just have to constantly be looking over my shoulder and just hoping that he's not there. And I'll talk more about this if I make a part 3. But I do think that I've done a good job, like, not becoming bitter. Because I really do hope that he gets some help. Like, that is legitimately insane behavior. Methodically stalking people like that. And I think that I've done my best to like move on with my life, you know? But you know what's the craziest part of this story? I mean, there are a lot of crazy parts, but I think the craziest part is how common this shit is. Like, when something bad or traumatic happens to like a kind of a normal average person like me, and you just go on living your life. And especially like in the comment section of part 1, I'm just like, wow, like, how are you guys doing?
Get ready with me while I talk about my stalker story. I've honestly been waiting like 2 years to tell this story because it was kind of scary. We didn't want this person to see this video or find where we were, but I think it's been long enough now to talk about it. Also, ignore my self-tan hands. Really, I haven't figured it out yet, but we're working on it. This started back in 2021, September, end of summer. I just started dating my boyfriend. We were sitting on the couch, drinking wine, just made some dinner, and we heard the doorbell ring. My boyfriend got up to answer the door. We weren't expecting anyone, so it was a little weird. He answered the door and I just hear this female voice talking. I looked around the corner because I thought it was kind of weird. There was this lady in her 30s, it looked like. She was wearing a black tight dress and really tall heels. This lady had a bottle of tequila in her hand and she handed it to my boyfriend and she was like, "I'm so sorry for the noise last night. I live in the unit directly below you. We were doing construction and I just wanted to bring this bottle of tequila to say sorry if it disturbed you guys at all." We were confused because we didn't hear any noise the night before. We were like, okay, it's fine. Like, thank you so much. It's okay. Don't worry about it. A few days go by. It's morning time, really early in the morning. We are just waking up, getting ready for work, and we hear the doorbell ring again. My boyfriend's roommate answered the door. I heard a bunch of commotion. So I open the door and I look outside and I see my boyfriend's roommate like shoving the door closed on this lady. So obviously it was the same lady as before. She had showed up at 8 in the morning, rang the doorbell, and she was wearing nothing but a towel, like completely naked in a bath towel with her hair wet. And she was trying to come into the apartment. She was like, "Who's there? Is it just you guys? Is it just you guys?" And he was like, yeah, like, what, can we help you? Like, what are you doing? And she tried to shove her way into the apartment. And my boyfriend's roommate had to slam the door on her and basically yell at her to get out. We didn't really know what to think of it. We thought maybe she thought they were cute and was trying to shoot her shot. And then she was pissed that they wouldn't let her in or something. We kind of just like let it go at the time. About a month goes by. Me and my boyfriend are getting ready to leave to go get sushi. We open the door and we look down and there's a folded up piece of paper on the doormat. We pick up the piece of paper and it is literally Morse code. A piece of paper with sentences on it, with punctuation, with lines and dots. I literally have a photo of it. Like, it was a Morse code note. I took pictures and videos of this entire ordeal that I can post, maybe. There's honestly so much to this story, so this is like a summarized version, but yeah. So on the way to sushi, I'm like looking up Morse code on my phone and I'm like deciphering this note. I finally got the whole thing decoded and it said, "Who are you and what exactly do you want from me? I'll be back in 30 minutes. We didn't really know what to do, so obviously we went to dinner. We were kind of expecting that when we got back there would be another one, and there was. Morse code note number 2. "If you truly want me, call me. I no longer trust you." We obviously had no idea who this person was, so we weren't responding to the Morse code notes, but it basically became a series of Morse code notes from this lady. She kept leaving them at the door. This was like a week-long thing. Every night she would leave a new one. It would always happen at like 6 or 7 p.m. Like, here's another one. "I don't understand. I will accept Tony, Leandro, or David. They need to call me today." And then just like some random stuff at the bottom. And then there's 3 more. The next one said, "Are they dead? I don't care if they moved on. I want to make sure they are alive and well, !" "As for the other gentleman, I am not a prostitute. I need to get to know them first, nor your slave." Also, throughout this whole thing, kind of left out this part, she would come to the door and ring the doorbell over and over and over again. Ding, 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 ding. We wouldn't even answer the door. Like, we were scared of her, so we wouldn't even open the door. Most of the time we would just stay and hide and be quiet. She would ring the doorbell over and over and over again, yell stuff through the door, and leave these notes. She randomly left a note that had the alphabet on it, and then when we opened it, she stopped using Morse code, and she actually wrote in English this time. "I don't understand, and unless you are specific on terms and whom you're suggesting, I don't get it, so I won't choose. FYI, you don't own me, and don't think for a minute that I forgot you were trying to ruin me. How can I ever trust you? P.S. The problem in my dreams was that. No open borders." Also, the way she was writing in that looked like someone who is clearly frantic, like it was scary. At this point, we know that we're dealing with someone who clearly has mental health issues. You never know what someone's capable of, so we didn't want to make the situation worse. So we kept ignoring it and leaving it alone. This whole thing basically started a series of months. This lasted like over a year. She would bang up on her ceiling at us with a broom at all hours of the night, like in the morning times, night times. But there was a period of time where she would come every single night and ring the doorbell over and over and over again. Here is a clip of how she would ring the doorbell when she would go crazy. I honestly have so many videos of that I can show a different time. But yeah, at this point, we decided to call the cops, told them what was going on. We asked them to come down and tell her to please leave us alone. Submitted a police report. We showed them all the notes and everything. And they would come down and they said that they would go knock on her door, but if she didn't answer, they couldn't do anything about it. We had called the cops multiple times because
This kept happening. Even when they would come, like nothing would change. She would still do it again and they would do nothing really about it. They would say, we can't help you guys until she actually does something to hurt someone. One of the last interactions that we had with her, she came to the door, did the ringing the doorbell thing again. At this point, we would open the window, the kitchen window, because we could see it out by the door. We'd open the kitchen window and be like, please leave us alone, go away, like leave us alone. We would yell for help from the neighbors, being like, help, this lady is like harassing us. One of the last interactions that we had with her before we moved out and everything, she came to the window and she told us that she thought that we were paid actors and that we sent paid actors to her door. The cops were paid actors. We were paid actors. And that we sent paid actors to her door to harass her. The whole time, she told us that we were harassing her and we needed to leave her alone. She told the cops that we were harassing her. We needed to leave her alone. Really, she was just mentally ill, which we understand, but also we were being harassed, so it was a lot. Here is a clip of one of the last times how violent she got with ringing our doorbell. It was bad. It was really bad. She's hiding. Oh my god. So, yeah. That's that. I can honestly talk about this for so long. I have so many videos. I have a whole album in my phone called Stalker that has every video and all the info about this, so I could talk about it forever. So yeah, let me know if you want a part 2 of my stalker story, but that's pretty much the summed up version.